Hi, everyone. I'm Katie Brokaw, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tonight, I'm going to be sharing a little bit about who I am, and then I'm going to give an overview of what's going to stay absolutely the same at Winedale, what might be changing a bit, and then a sneak peek of 2026, and then there'll be time for chatting and Q&A at the end. I'm going to start off from the start to say that I stand in awe of what Doc and James have created. Although I never knew James like you, I mourn his loss. And Doc, I am so sorry about the passing of Joanne, and I know that so many in this community grieve her loss too. I'm also so grateful for your kindness, Doc. I'm also deeply indebted to Laurel for taking incredibly good care of me throughout this transition and teaching me so much about James and about Winedale. Thank you too to Madge for inviting me out to Winedale in June and passing on so much wisdom and knowledge throughout the summer and with such grace. Thanks be to more alums than I can count, to the class of 2025, and huge gratitude to Emma and Clayton and Robin, as well as Trisha and Echo at the Briscoe Center, and to my UT English department colleagues. You've all been unfailingly generous and welcoming and helpful. Okay, so a little bit about who I am. My PhD is in English from the University of Michigan, where I studied medieval and Renaissance literature with, among other people, James's thesis advisor, Bill Worthen. I was then an English professor at UC Merced for 14 years. I started acting with Merced Shakespeare Fest and local companies when I was out there. And then in 2017, I founded Shakespeare in Yosemite and ran it for 8 productions. With that company, we worked with the National Park Service and students to make Shakespeare accessible and relevant to a very wide public. So I was out in California working with a 90% people of color student population out there in the San Joaquin Valley, where summers are getting hotter and hotter and there's farm worker deaths everywhere in one of the most polluted areas of the country. And I was seeing communities near me devastated by both flood and fire. I listened to my students and to our audiences, and all of that changed my teaching and my theater making. And it changed my scholarship too. So my second book, which is called Shakespeare and Community Performance, is about how communities around the world now use Shakespeare to understand themselves. And then just this past summer, my third book, which I co-wrote with Royal Shakespeare Company director Elizabeth Freestone, Performing Shakespeare on an Endangered Planet, is about how Shakespeare can be used as an ecological playwright. So all of this work is very much in response to the world in which I was living in California and the students with whom I was collaborating out in Merced. I understand that now I'm in a new context in Texas and I'm already adapting to that context. I've already bought my first pair of cowboy boots and wear them all the time. So that's a little bit about me. And now I'm going to sort of launch into talking about Winedale, and the theme here is sort of continuity and change. So the main principle is that our primary responsibility is to current students and campers. Most of all, we want to make sure that their experience is as wonderful as yours was. Also, we know how important the alumni community is and want to make sure that our programming is always keeping alums involved and that Winedale is always home for you. So a lot of things are just never going to change. And these are things that many of you talked about in your surveys. First of all, community. This was by far the most frequently used word in the surveys, probably more than Shakespeare. As one of you said, what you most remember is the immersion in nature, the immersion in community, and the sense of purpose from being part of this community. So nature, community, and purpose are the very 3 things that I have been most focused on in the last decade or so, and what most draws me to Winedale. Another thing is believing in students to do hard things, or as many of you said, the grab and oar teamwork ethic, that everyone's sweeping the barn and making ice towels and doing all those things that need to happen for the show and for life out there. And that, a lot of you talk about how this was the most challenging time of your life and it set you up to feel like you could do anything. And that's, of course, never going to change. Another is a deep engagement with the text. A lot of you talked about this, and along with that, productions that focus on the text and bringing the text through to life through acting rather than extravagant production design. That will remain the case. Also, we'll be using lots of music as ever. And let me assure you that what will never change is that this program transforms the lives of students through Shakespearean performance. Another thing that we hope will never change is being out in the Arden that is Winedale. And I really want to explore and love that place even more deeply. I love the idea of the peripatetic performances. We'll absolutely be doing that. And Trisha and Echo have put me in touch with a naturalist, and I want to do nature walks, identifying bird and other species, more reflection time by the lake, things like that. Really, really embracing that beautiful ecosystem. And so many wonderful traditions aren't going anywhere. Singing for your supper before meals, all those glorious Winedale songs, the 4th of July student alumni volleyball game, preview Saturday nights in June, though they're probably going to move back a week. Circling up to do Czechoslovakia, which I think I've learned, and pep talks, all those things. At least one of you noted that these kind of fundamentals are more important than ever in the age of AI and social media, and I couldn't agree more. In fact, I've written a few essays about how the creative collaboration that is required of students when they do Shakespearean performance is exactly what today's students need. So these are things that are never going to change, and I hope you'll agree that these are the fundamentals. Also, our wonderful programs that serve younger Shakespeareans are not going to change. And so Robin's going to give us a quick update about Camp Shakespeare.
Hi, thank you, Katie. Hi, everyone. To begin, on behalf of the program, I also just want to share our deepest sympathy with those here who knew and loved Joanne. The family will be sharing more with us about the ways that we can continue to celebrate and honor her. But for those of us who knew her, she was truly a magical and singular human being and friend. So may her memory be a blessing. I was blessed to spend the day with Doc in Houston, who's on the call, and we're really happy to share that Camp Shakespeare 2026 preparations are underway. The applications are up on our website. We just got our first application in a moment ago. So if there are young people in your community who you believe would enjoy seeing a Camp Shakespeare play or applying and participating in that type of transformative experience, we hope that you will spread the word. Our Camp Shakespeare newsletter will go out later this month, and it will have information about how to apply and help us spread the word, the Camp Shakespeare performance dates, so you can put those in your calendar, and also a little update on things that camp is doing year round to share enrichment opportunities with local students in and around Fayette County. So if you want to learn more, you can sign up for the Camp Shakespeare newsletter on our portion of the Shakespeare at Winedale website. But Doc and I and the other members of the Camp Shakespeare team really look forward to seeing you all very soon and at the barn this summer. So thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Robin. And now Clayton is going to, thank you, Robin Grace, sorry. And now Clayton is going to give a quick update about the outreach program.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie, and hi, everybody. Amazing to see all these names in the participant list. Yeah, outreach is in full swing. We've had a very active fall. We had a performance by the Harrington students, did a curtain raiser at the Curtain Theater in October. We had the outreach players perform at the Westminster Retirement Community, and also we visited campus and performed in the English office, did a pop-up performance there, and performed for two classes of UT students. We are working in Maplewood Elementary, which thankfully was just taken off the list of schools to be closed by AISD. Also have lunch groups going at Blackshear Elementary, Blanton Elementary, Pond Springs Elementary, and Round Rock. And we're currently working towards the next performance will be a curtain raiser for the Actors from London stage. We did this last year for the first time at the Bullock Museum in the atrium there. That'll be February 21st on a Saturday at probably about five or so, but we'll definitely invite all of you to come join us for that. And then, of course, everything's kind of working towards the festival play, which will be Saturday, April 25th.
Thank you, Clayton, and thank you too for letting me come along to some Outreach Players events this fall. It's been so great. So much will remain the same. Most will remain the same. But I'm a new person with different perspectives and backgrounds from Doc or James, and so some things will change, and I hope and trust in ways that are positive for everyone. It's perhaps important to say that Winedale has always been changing. Doc was affected by the happenings of the 60s and 70s, the academic study of play, and the then new concept of learning through performance. And he was such a pioneer in that, obviously. While James was affected by the new opening of the Globe and what became the American Shakespeare Center and the original practices movement of the late 90s and early 2000s. So I'm really happy to be inheriting both of those traditions. And then I'm also affected, we're all affected by the here and now of what's happening in the Shakespeare world and the wider world in 2025. And so I want to talk a little bit about how the world and our students have changed over the course of Winedale's history, perhaps since the time that you did the program. One is that Texas summers are getting hotter. And this means that we're looking at performance times. We experimented with morning matinees this year that we had positive feedback. We're going to keep doing that. They're going to move to 10:30. We're looking at the rhythm of the day and when we're outside and most active, hydration protocols, and even things like costumes and fabrics. My goal here is to have no students be hospitalized or fall ill from the heat. And a few of you in your surveys mentioned safety, and that is certainly something that we are looking at. Um, Another is the mental health of college students. There's a lot of data about the mental health of Gen Z, and the statistics are certainly sobering. This means that we're thinking about things like making sure that students are getting enough sleep, at least that they have the option to if they need it, and making sure that we're really cultivating a space where every one of our students feels truly valued for who they are. And then finally, the world is freaking scary. And in my experience over the last nearly 20 years of college teaching, I've seen that many students respond most wholeheartedly to Shakespeare if they feel that it's connected to the issues that they most care about. And so, in addition to deeply engaging with the texts and with early modern history throughout the summer, we're also going to be thinking a lot about what these plays say to us now. And you might be seeing that reflected in some of the productions. Um, okay, so for 2026, this spring, we will be doing Winter's Tale. So that's what we'll be performing for the Festival of Play in April. It's my favorite play. I know that it means a lot to to many in this community, that it meant a lot to James, and we're really excited to be doing that. We had 26 fantastic applicants for 18 spots. We ended up taking 20, I'm really excited about our spring class. This summer, the theme of the summer is history, and we will take a variety of approaches to the plays, giving students multiple ways to engage and be creative. So our first play will be Henry IV, Part 1, following on from 2025's Richard II. This will be a heritage production. It will look and sound a lot like, or exactly like, really, what you usually see in Winedale. So that's Henry IV, Part 1. We'll also be doing Romeo and Juliet, using this classic to think about how we reckon with so many conflicts where civil blood makes civil hands unclean, including the US Civil War, the aftermath of which we're still living. I'm planning on our intensive week on this play to fall during Juneteenth, and we'll be connecting our thinking about that play to the history of Winedale. As Johnny Mayer has recently uncovered, the theater barn was likely built by enslaved people, and we are, of course, performing on a site run by UT's Briscoe Center for American History. And at least one of you mentioned this in your survey, and I'm glad to say that this production will be an initial step in thinking seriously about American history, about the history of the structures on Winedale, and how Shakespeare might be a way to think about American history. This is not, to be clear, going to be set in the Civil War. There's not going to be like blue and gray uniforms and hoop skirts and such. It's just a way for us to intellectually engage with it as a class. We might use some Civil War songs too, which are extremely beautiful. So that's Romeo and Juliet. And then our final play will be A Love's Labour's Lost. And this is like the buckle up one that's going to be set in Winedale in 1976, which was the bicentennial of the country. And I'm really grateful to Madge for finding this picture for me. I hope you can see it, of the Winedale class of 1976. I hope to recreate most of those fashions. So the idea is that the boys show up in Winedale and they're just going to focus on Shakespeare and not love all summer, and then the plot ensues. This will be a celebration of 56 years of Winedale history and a way to sort of look back on the last 50 years of our country. I hope this will be a really joyful production for Winedalers, as it will include some Winedale inside jokes, as well as a lot of Shakespearean Easter eggs. It's also going to be a perfect one for you to use to lure out that friend in your life who may think Shakespeare is not for them, as the plot will be streamlined and the language gently updated to be more immediately accessible. It's going to be chock full of 70s music and 70s fashion. And if any of you are alums from the 70s, please email me or reach out to us with memories of music, shenanigans, anything you can remember that we might be able to use and put into this production. So that's the season. As I said, we'll be continuing the 10:30 matinees begun in 2025, encouraging picnicking afterward for lunch. At the end of the summer, we're planning to do a preview night. And on that night, that's when you'll learn about the 2027, the next summer season, by having the 2026 class will be performing a scene from each of those next year's shows, as well as we'll be having some performances from the camp and from camp and outreach. So it will really be a celebration of all three programs together under one barn roof. Another thing one of our goals for 2026 is to get more locals to the shows. A couple of you mentioned that it was one of your favorite memories is the sort of involvement of the Round Top community. We really want the whole Fayette County community to be involved and supportive of Winedale. And so Emma's going to quickly talk about our new ambassador program.
Beautiful. Okay. I'm spotlighting myself. There we go. Hi, everybody. We're so excited to be launching a new ambassador program. So if anyone on the call is in Fayette County or lives in a town near Fayette County or has a friend who's local to Fayette County, we wanted to let you know about this initiative where if you join to be an ambassador, you get a free summer 2026 t-shirt. You get a complimentary ticket to see a play this summer, and you also get a shout out in the theater barn. And in return for being an ambassador, we'll ask you to do some outreach in your community, whether that's making an announcement at your church or book club or another gathering of friends, or emailing some friends directly to invite them, or reaching out over social media. And so if you're at all interested, we'll have a whole social media package that you can send out. We'll have sample verbs and like news about the plays. And so we hope that if you are here and you live in Fayette County, that you'll sign up. So I'm going to put a link to become an ambassador in the chat. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me to find out more about the program and the perks and the t-shirt. And we hope to have many more members of Fayette County out this summer. All tickets for the whole summer, I think. Katie and I are still working out the details with the tickets, but I think 50% off for all Fayette County residents for the whole summer, which we're really excited about.
Thank you, Emma. It was such a great idea, and I'm really excited about that program. And then finally, we're planning on doing many alumni weekends every year. So the big reunions will still happen every 5 years, but every year there will be a designated alumni weekend. We'll probably do at least a hootenanny and reciting your favorite lines on stage, that kind of thing. Not the big barbecue, but some of those things. So look out for that. We're also planning to have a camp reunion at the end of the summer where campers can come and reunite and go to the big, what they call the big kid shows. I've been talking to people, some of my new colleagues, about having a UT Oxford program reunion night. They're interested in, now you've seen these plays in Oxford, come see them in Winedale. And then I've been talking to some UT administrators about a UT-wide faculty and staff night that will hopefully get some people out from Austin to Winedale as well. So those are some of the things that we're working on for 2026, which we're really excited about. So that's it for me and Robin, Grace, and Emma and Clayton talking formally. And now we can open it up to questions. And ideally, either put it in the chat or raise your hand and we can call on you. Use the raise hand feature. Questions, comments, feelings? Oh, thank you, Eric. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Mads. It's been great to get to know you. Mads was one of our 2025 rock stars. Any other questions or anything you'd like me to expand upon? Or thoughts?
I have a
Yeah,
question
great.
for you. What was your favorite thing that you saw visiting the class of 25 this summer that that made you even more excited about the position?
Oh, that's so great. I mean, do I have to pick one? It was really kind of all of it, to be honest. I mean, it's really all the things that all of you have told me about and said in your surveys. It's the community, it's the beautiful sight of seeing you all working together, working through adversity and also with so much joy. It's, all three productions were magnificent. I've said that's really one of my favorite productions of Twelfth Night I've ever seen. It's the quality of what you're all doing. It's circling up and learning all. So I should also say I come from a camp background. I was a long time camper at a summer camp in Michigan and then was on staff of that camp for a really long time. And so I was feeling like all these aspects of my life that I love, Shakespeare and performance, and that, the life-changing opportunities that come from a residential program were all coming together beautifully in Winedale. Like this is just, really the place of my dreams. So it's really the community stuff and the Shakespeare stuff and how beautifully those come together there. I also fell in love with the place. I mean, the barn is beautiful and it smells good and it's magical and it has this history and there's those oak trees and that was not one thing. Sorry, I really failed that question, Grant. The spring play is Winter's Tale, yes. And I will say so. So that's my favorite play. Long has been. My father passed away in fall of 2022, and then 2 weeks later, my nephew, who would have been his first grandson, was born. So that line, "Thou metst with things dying, I with things no newborn," has always been my favorite line of Shakespeare, and now I've lived it. My nephew's name is James, too, I will say. So I'm probably going to cry a lot while directing that play, but I'm really excited to kind of start with something that I think is a play that, for all those reasons, all the reasons that play is so wonderful, means a lot to us. And like I said, the Emma and I have been looking at the applications for the spring class, and they all just seem spectacular. And we had to turn students away, and it was heartbreaking. And they also seem spectacular. So we're just really hopeful about some real magic happening this spring. Oh, thank you, Heather. That's very kind of you to say. Yeah, 4 great plays. I'm really excited. I'll say I've directed Love's Labors before, and and Romeo and Juliet and Winter's Tale. And Henry IV Part 1 I've taught but not directed. So I'm super psyched, I think, for all of them, but it's going to be really fun to jump into a play that I've never directed with that one. I'll also say this morning I was in Parlin at UT, and a grad student found basically a bunch of boxes of Doc's archives from the 70s and 80s. And I was going through some of these boxes and really excited to find old posters and actually costumes and props from the 70s that we're going to be using for That Love's Laborers. So if you were an alum in the 70s and you come to our show this summer, there might be a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, I made that. So we're really excited about that, and also just all the wisdom that's going to be contained in those boxes. Yeah, the background of the students. Great question, Steve. So most but not all are English majors. I think one film major, there's a French major, lots of Plan 2 kids, but most of them are double majors. I think there's one from economics. Emma, do you remember any others? It was really diverse.
Yeah. Kind of students from all over the school applied. Katie did a wonderful job
Yeah.
of reaching out to a ton of different classes all over the university, and speaking to students. And so we had just an overwhelming number of students apply, like Katie said, from kind of all over the university.
Yeah, primarily liberal arts, primarily COLA, but and again, definitely over half English majors, but yeah, from all sorts of places. Vincent, you have a question.
Yeah, hi. Actually, let me turn on my camera. Oh, hi. Oh, hi. One, really excited, especially for the plays this summer. I was in the last Romeo and Juliet class, so really looking forward to that. Yeah, my question is just pure curiosity. What made you decide to put a Love Labor's Lost in the 70s? How'd you come up with that idea?
Yeah. So I will say I've done a version of this before. So for Shakespeare in Yosemite, it was supposed to be our 2020 production. And you know what happened to that? Was going to honor the first Earth Day of 1970, and so be set in 1969, during all the youth movements that led to that first Earth Day, and then actually President Nixon creating the Environmental Protection Agency. We ended up doing that in 2022. But that format really worked. And then it turns out that Gen Z fell in love with 70s music, which was really fun, late 60s, early 70s music. And so this production won't necessarily have that ecological bent, but I know that kind of, I love Love Saber's Lost, but honestly, the main plot is much better than most of the subplots. And that kind of streamlined structure where you have the one group who sort of comes to this beautiful place in nature, in this case, Yosemite or Winedale, and says, we're going to have a total retreat. We're not going to talk to women. And then suddenly they fall in love. That kind of really works. And so I had that idea actually when I was interviewing and out in Winedale. I was like, ooh, wait a minute. What if we set it here in Winedale? And I thought it would be a beautiful way to honor Winedale. And for me, because, part of the process of getting ready to do this is going to be really going into those archives. For me as the new director to really dig deep into, that first decade of Winedale, to hopefully get to know some alums from that era. So yeah, so those are the reasons. And then 76, because it'll be 50 years before 2026. And like I said, with it being, the bicentennial of the country and then the 250th next year, I thought that was a nice kind of opportunity there too.
So cool. I'm so excited.
Thank you. I am too. Emma has been amazing. We've already gotten rights to some cool 70s songs, but we can get more. So again, if people have songs that they remember that they were listening to, or Doc, if you remember songs that people were listening to in the 70s on the transistor radio, we'd love to know.
Yeah, 1976 was the summer where we won the grand prize and the parade.
Oh my gosh, amazing. That's definitely really great info.
Right,
I
yeah.
love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
we had a brawl in a tavern on the wagon and caused quite a disturbance.
Oh dear. Oh
Yes,
dear.
yep, that was a wonderful time.
Amazing. I found today actually the program from 1976 when I saw that you did scenes from Midsummer Night's Dream, Taming of the Shrew, and As You Like It. And then we also found this old, ass head, bottom head. So I'm hoping that we can kind of represent, that those were the plays in rehearsal.
That's a fairly universal symbol at Winedale.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Thank you. I can't wait to talk to you more about all of that. And the grand prize at the parade is incredible.
Well,
Um,
I'm gonna have to bow out. I have to eat now. And I want to thank you for doing this.
Thank you, Doc. I want to thank you so much for
I
being.
I do think you have the sterner stuff for ambition. That's for sure. I like the way you outline things. It's all clear to me. I don't understand some of it, but uh, I'm going to spend some time uh, uh, listening a little bit more and see what comes. I look forward to getting back into good health more than anything else. Yeah, yeah, this is not fun.
Absolutely,
Not
Doc.
fun. But anyway, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you for
I'm
joining. Our hearts are with you.
I'm going to let myself out if,
Okay.
and that, Robin, I can do that. That's one thing I can do. I don't have to call Robin to say, how do I get out of here? I love you guys.
Thank you. Lots of love to you, Doc. Take really good care. Aw. I'm so glad that he was here. Um, okay. Tom, you had a question.
I just wanted to say that my wife Linda Sheed and I um, look most forward to Shakespeare at Winedale every summer. She had a friend in the very first class. I've been coming every summer since 1976. Um, we look forward to what will be the same and what will change. Thanks so much for doing this. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That means a lot. Thank you. I see there's a question from Nathan about conservation and sustainability initiatives. Before I answer that, Emma, in case people don't know, do you want to give a quick update on what we've done recently?
Absolutely. Um, so Nathan might be following up on our new Shakespeare Sustainably initiative that we started this past summer with the support of a Green Fund grant from UT. Katie's showing off our new sticker. So this past summer we were able to install a number of things. First of all, a big freezer backstage, an energy efficient freezer for all of the ice towels and ice to, keep students cooler over the summer. We also installed something called a big ass fan, and that's the company name. And it is a high volume, low speed fan. I always invert it. That is a very energy efficient way of circulating air. We handed out reusable fans to audience members with programs, and many people turned them back because they said that the high speed, low volume fan, I did it again, I inverted it, but you know what I mean, that the big fan was so cool that it actually cooled down things too much. So we had a number of really exciting initiatives. We encouraged audience members to bring water bottles. We had reusable water bottles for sale. And we know that over 500 people brought reusable water bottles because we ran out of stickers, which was really exciting. And another thing that we launched that we sort of slowly started off this past summer, and I'm hoping we'll gain momentum this coming summer, is a carpooling initiative from Houston and Austin. So we'll have software set up so that people can carpool out to Winedale, because that's one of our biggest carbon footprints, is just the carbon cost of gasoline to and from. So that's what we were up to this past summer. I think that's everything. I might be missing some of the things. We did a lot. But Katie, as you all know, is such a sustainability and environmental Shakespearean scholar. So I'm really excited to see like the new directions that this kind of sustainability campaign can go under her leadership.
Thank you. Thank you, Emma. And your work on all of that, you're in the front of house work from Momo and her team. Like you've all been incredible in making all that happen. It was really wonderful to just come in, start coming to the program this summer and see all that in full swing. So in terms of new initiatives, really in terms of our kind of back of house and front of house operations, it's just about continuing and perfecting those. The other piece, which I mentioned briefly, that I want to start adding is just thinking about kind of appreciation of and knowledge of and care for the site. Right. So really, I really want students and me to be able to identify the trees on the site and know about the pollinators and the plants and the animals. And to do some bird walks and flower walks and things like that. So that's a goal and kind of part of a long-term effort to think about, one of the things that I've both done and written about a lot is trying to root Shakespeare in its place and in its ecosystem. Right. And so that can mean things like very gently updating, a reference to the daffodils to make it bluebonnets, right. To kind of honoring the place where we're performing in our performances. So some of that might be reflected in our productions, that we're really inviting audiences to think about where they are and what's beautiful about that part of Central Texas, what it's facing in terms of environmental threats, right? So that's the sort of start of that process. Yeah.
And just to say, if anyone has more ideas or things that we can do to kind of continue that work, we're all ears, and really excited to kind of continue it.
Absolutely. And I should say to all of you, so Emma has created this wonderful survey, and I've gotten a lot of great information from it already, but anybody can fill it out at any time, which will provide all of us information about what you find most valuable at Winedale and what your hopes are for its future. And that you can also reach out to me at any time if you want to talk or just share your ideas or your thoughts or your memories or anything like that. Yeah, Kate. Good to see you, Kate.
Hi. Just a couple thoughts. First of all, in the 90s, we certainly had cotton costumes. I had two that had no tights, and those were my favorites because wearing those tights are hot. And then yeah. So I think that the ability to create a world is something that has changed at different points in the history of Winedale, like a class creation of a world. And that can be a great experiment and a great community experience. So just the costuming doesn't actually seem like a big departure to me. But I know we've had some really beautiful period costumes for the last decade or so. Um, then the other side of that is the history. There used to be a tour. I know that we were taken as a class to the buildings, like the one-room schoolhouse across the street, and a couple of other buildings on site. And I met people probably in the earlier 90s who grew up there speaking German before they went to school. There's a deep history there in many, many ways that you can talk about for World War II also. Um, just to plant that seed that yeah, there were anyway, it's got a lot, big roots, and yeah,
Thank you.
welcome. I worry
And
a little bit about changing language, but that's just me being a purist, and that's okay. We got to do what we got to do.
I'll come back to that in a second. I know that Trisha's on the call, which Trisha, you can chime in if you'd like. Trisha did a wonderful tour this summer for our students. So Trisha's the Winedale site director, and so absolutely learning about all of those buildings. Trisha, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, definitely do a tour every summer and love to talk about the buildings. We can definitely go outside the tour. Any questions or anything? Might be something new I need to research. I did a tour today and everyone sees something different I never have before or have interesting questions. So yeah, happy to explore the site's history with the students or anyone who's interested.
Thank you, Trisha, for that and for all that you do. And Kate, so I'll say, as I said at one point, I'm really alive. So I have my foot in both worlds, my feet in both worlds, and that, I'm an academic and I go to the Shakespeare Association of America and International Shakespeare Association academic conferences, and then I'm also a theater director who goes to Shakespeare Theater Association conferences that are for directors and producers of Shakespeare. And what I'm seeing in terms of what's being written about, what's being done, and what's being discussed at those conferences is that adaptation is really kind of the thing that a lot of companies are doing, and a lot of academics are interested in. So in the same way that James was really influenced by original practices and Doc by the study of play, I really want our students to be able to join in the conversation of what's happening in Shakespeare studies now. And that is a lot of adaptation. So adaptation, well, only one of the three shows is going to be adapted this summer. But I want to give students the opportunity to practice different kinds of Shakespeare, including a kind of Shakespeare that that I have really loved doing with my students, that my students have found really rewarding, and that it's going to use different kind of creative muscles than other kinds of performance. So I hope that kind of makes sense of that. Any other questions or thoughts? Vincent, yes.
Sorry, this is my first time meeting you, so I just want to pick your brain a lot. Um, why is Winter's Tale your favorite play? I'm a huge fan of the romances in general, so I already feel kinship there. I love Cymbeline, I love Winter's Tale, I love The Tempest, so I'm very excited to hear that. So why Winter's Tale?
They're the best plays. Yeah, probably for the same reasons you have. I mean, the romances are just where it's at. Uh, I What I love about them is that, we have Shakespeare at the end of his career revisiting these themes that he'd looked at when he's writing the great tragedies, and saying, what if something were different? What if people listened to each other? What if people forgave each other? And they've always been my favorite. And I think right now, that is such a beautiful question to ask, right? What if we listen to each other? What if we forgive each other? What if we try to find a fragile harmony? And it's not, we're all gonna hold hands and sing, though I do love to all hold hands and sing, especially at Winedale, but it's not naive. And I don't think that a lot of the comedies are naive either, but there's a real hard won hope that those late plays have. That kind of fragile harmony that those plays end in, that has always felt really beautiful and realistic to me. And then, like I said, that play has that line, and that play has personal meaning to me. It's a play that I write about in my first book. And yeah, it's just the greatest. And it's so weird, right? Like in terms of, like, as a teacher, what I love about it is it's like when we start staging, it's like, okay, 16-year gap in time, what are we going to do with that? The bear, what are we going to do with that? The statue, what are we going to do? Like, it like really gives you these really juicy staging challenges. So that excites me as as someone who's going to be teaching this play through performance. Yeah.
Very exciting. Yeah. I'm no longer in Texas, so probably can't make it, but oh, very exciting.
Thank you. Well, we'll see if we can get a little exactly. You must awake your faith. Oh, yeah. Somebody like she's warm. I mean, geez, there's so many of those lines that just, yeah, absolutely. Plus, it's got all this great music in it, or potential for great music. And I'm a big music person. Yeah.
Thanks.
I love that, Harris. Yeah. Yeah.
Katie used the term, and I can't remember it, but about having short kind of vignettes on the porches of the the houses. Did I understand that? Or y'all were gonna go do scenes throughout the site?
Oh, the peripatetic
Yes,
performances. So
yes,
that's
yes.
a tradition that I believe, Laurel, I believe James began the peripatetic. That that move around the site.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I was just thinking because we did the last summer we did Hamlet as a peripatetic, and we one of the last places we were at was in the church/schoolhouse. I'm never quite sure which one it is. And we went in there, and of course it was like 1,000,000 degrees outside, and it was right before sunset. And we went inside, and it was incredibly still and dark inside. And Claudius was up front, and the rest of us were in the pews. And Claudius was doing his speech about how horrible he is and how God should smite him, or whatever it is that he says. And we were all just so intense, and he was super quiet. And then all of a sudden, Hamlet comes busting in the door behind him, which nobody even knew there was a door behind him. So screaming, freaked out people, but it was great. And then we all left through that door and was like, wow, it's really cool out here.
Amazing. Yeah. So Trisha, just to clarify, these are just for the students that they move around the site. So these aren't for audiences. I mean, that would be amazing someday to have.
Cool. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's both a schoolhouse and a church. So it's both, Laurel.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah, the school church. So I love that idea of moving around the site, doing different scenes from the plays as a way to really be exploring and loving the site while also bringing
that started because we were supposed to do a dress rehearsal of Julius Caesar. It's like night before opening, and they were putting those railings in the barn because of safety. We'd been inspected, and we were required to put those railings in. So we couldn't do the dress rehearsal in the barn. So James said, well, let's just do it out here. And we started at the picnic tables, and off we went. And it was such a great, just fantastic experience for everybody that it was like, okay, we're going to always do that now.
Yeah, I'm so excited about it.
Born of necessity, which is great.
Yeah. 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 Super cool. Okay. Any last questions or thoughts? All right. Thank you, everyone. It's been so good to see you, to meet a few of you. Like I said, feel free to reach out to any of the four of us with questions or thoughts, and fill out the survey. If you're not on the mailing list, if you haven't gotten recent emails, a few people got kicked off the mailing list, so please join that. And yeah, you've got the Shakespeare at Winedale and my email on there as well. Thank you, Emma. Great.
All right. We're really excited to have the spring class out at Winedale. I can't believe you have 20. It's going to be a full house in the dorm, and the summer class. And I hope I see some of the folks from last year come back, like maybe Vincent.
Absolutely.
Hope so. We'll see.
Yes. Yes. We're very excited. Thank you, Trisha, for all you do. Thank you, all of you, for coming out tonight, and have a great evening, and please be in touch.
All right.